Welcome, everyone, to the Gridiron Review Podcast. I'm Zach, that's Jack, and we are back for episode 10 of our Offseason in Review series. We're pushing on through the AFC East with the Miami Dolphins. Miami had quite the eventful offseason, as anyone that pays attention to football knows, starting with the controversial firing of Brian Flores and then hiring the prophet offensive wonderkin Mike McDaniel as the new head coach. They then sent shocks throughout the league with one of the biggest trades this offseason and really in recent memory, acquiring Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers in the game and maybe one of the most, if not the most, unguardable players in the game. Now they turn towards the season with hopes on improving from last year and finally making it to the playoffs, as it feels like it's been a long time. Is it possible, though? Find out now.
It starts on the offensive side of the ball with the losses. Chris Trevler and Jacoby Brissett in the quarterback room. Duke Johnson, Philip Lindsay, Malcolm Brown in the running back room. Will Fuller, Alan Hearns, Albert Wilson, Matt Collins in the receiver room. Greg Mance and Jesse Davis on the offensive line. Although none of those are huge names, to say the least, or not in recent memory, they are still very solid depth pieces and role players. In terms of players retained, Salvin Ahmed in the running back room, Preston Williams as a receiver, Mike Gesicki as the tight end. He is on the franchise tag. I don't remember if he signed his tag yet or not.
Yeah, I think he did, but I also haven't heard anything about extension talks out of there, so I'm not sure what the status is on that.
Although he's probably asking for more money now because David Njoku, but that is a different story. And Durham Smythe, also a tight end. The free agent pickups start in the quarterback room with Teddy Two Gloves, Raheem Mostert, Sony Michel, Chase Edmonds in the running back room, fullback Alec Ingold, wide receivers Cedric Wilson and Trent Sherfield, and Connor Williams and Teron Armstead on the line. And as Zach mentioned in our intro, they acquired Tyreek Hill in exchange for a first, second, and fourth round pick from this year's draft and a fourth and sixth round pick next year. This offense should be one of the most explosive in football. The question that everyone is going to continue to ask is, can Tua step up? And with the guy like McDaniel as the head coach, I don't know if he's calling his own plays or not, but if you watch the 49ers offense, they are not entirely predicated around throwing the deep ball. And when you look at it, their quarterback was Jimmy Garoppolo, who is one of the best probably game manager quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And I think that's probably where you consider Tua as game manager until he can make that next step. And I think that McDaniel is going to do everything he can to take the pressure off. And I think that includes going to a run game with the four guys that they brought in. I mean, their number one from last year, I believe, was Gaskin, who is now on the depth chart running back 4. So he made it a priority to bring in running backs who can take the pressure off as both check down options and running options. The issue is that both Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert are coming off of injury, and Michelle has dealt with injuries his whole career. So it's yet to be seen if any of these guys will stay healthy. But if you can limit their snaps by a rotation of guys, I think it's definitely possible that we can see them stay more healthy than they have in the past. In the receiver room, I think that for me, one of the more underrated receivers in the league is Cedric Wilson. And to bring him in was a huge get. Many people will probably say that he was a little bit overpaid given that he was only a role player in Dallas, but I feel like he could be used in a similar way that the Niners used Juwan Jennings, like the big guy that you go to on third downs. You know he's going to make the catch, and on top of it all, Wilson is very good after the catch. This line, they brought in Connor Williams, who I believe was the most penalized lineman in football last year. So you got to worry a little bit about that. But to bring in Teron Armstead for, you can't even say blindside because Tua is a lefty, but to protect Tua is a huge get. As for the rest of the line, as it's slotted right now, I believe it is going to be Austin Jackson and Robert Hunt at guards and Liam Eichenberg at the other tackle. So, I mean, are those guys going to hold up? I don't know. If you run an RPO-based offense, play action, I think it gives you a better chance. And with guys like Waddle and Hill, just getting the ball in their hand and letting them do, what they do best, should get you down the field just as simply as throwing one deep ball.
Yeah, it feels like McDaniel's going to run the dream 49er offense that they, to its max efficiency. I do think he's going to be calling the plays, and if he's not calling them, he's absolutely designing them based on everything you hear about his knowledge of the game as, an offensive mind. I think going and getting Teddy Bridgewater is a little bit underrated. I'm not a Bridgewater fan, but this is one of the free agent moves we called right on the nose. It seemed like a natural fit for Bridgewater to back up Tua, a player who in of itself has not been, Tua has not been proven to be the model of health and consistency either. So it feels like they're also going to run the dream 49er offense in that there's like 7 running backs total. When you have Mostert, Michelle, Edmonds, Ahmed, Gaskin, and I'm sure there's another one or two. Patrick Laird, I think, is still there.
That I don't know, but Ingold is one of the better utility backs, so I'm sure he'll be used in some way.
So, when 3 out of the 5 of them go down or 3 out of the 7, they'll have guys ready to step up. I think the Sony Michel signing, for as late as it was, is a really great one because Mostert's going to flash for 2 games before he gets hurt. Edmonds is a decent back, but I know you and I kind of differ on this. I think he's not a do-it-all back. I think he's better if he's not getting, 70% of the carries. And I think him and Michelle could form a very good one, not 1-2, but like how James Conner in Arizona and Edmonds split role. I think more Edmonds than Conner, meaning like if it was like a 60-40 split, I think Edmonds should have the 60 and Michelle should have the 40 in this scenario. But then they also, like you said, have Gaskin, Ahmed. Like there's a lot of security, much like San Francisco does, where, they just keep drafting guys and they keep adding guys in the offseason. So even when, Mostert inevitably goes down, I guess I don't know what to envision Mostert's role. I guess he probably starts as the first back, but they paid Edmonds more money, I think. So,
I mean, he'll probably be like Sammy Watkins. You'll get a good week 1 out of him, and he'll just sit on the bench the rest of the year.
Yeah, fantasy managers deploy Sammy Watkins and Mostert week 1, and you'll start off with a win, and then after that, trade them as soon as you can. The Tyreek Hill trade, as I said in the intro, was a massive, shaking trade. It was one of the bigger when you're trading for a guy that's not, 35 and a receiver that is still the fastest, second fastest to Mostert, ironically enough, according to data that I saw the other day. And it's the only one that Tyreek Hill will admittedly say is faster than him. And this offense is going to be it should be very good between Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Mike Gesicki. I feel like he's kind of forgotten at times. But as far as a receiving threat goes, he's one of the better tight ends in that area. It's just whether or not Tua can take the next step. Is he Bridgewater 2.0? Or is he, closer? Now, this is a lofty comparison, but like Breeze, where he had a really early major injury. Now, granted, Tua's was in college, and it just took a couple of years. And now that everything is there for him, an offense that's going to better suit his play style, better weapons. Like you said, a heavy RPO offense should have Tua thriving. But it's just, can he do it? Because I think the difference between, a game manager who shouldn't be drafted as high as he was and a Pro Bowler is, yeah, he can play within the RPO offense, but what happens when it goes off script? Is he going to throw that head-shaking interception that he did a couple times last year that was just nowhere close to where it was supposed to be? Or is he going to just continue to grow and take another step? And, we talked about accuracy is great, but accuracy only takes you so far as a quarterback. The better quarterbacks are able to go off script to make the wow plays. And he has 2 of the easiest receivers to do that with in football, in my opinion. And again, the offense should be better. It should be a lot better. And I also agree. I think Cedric Wilson is one of the most underrated receivers in football, and it was a great signing. I don't think he was paid too much, especially compared to what guys like Kirk got. And, why did Zay Jones get paid what he did? And I think I would rather have Cedric Wilson, in my opinion. I mean, I think, on the offensive side, they make a lot of good moves. And I think the quick passing should keep Tua off of the turf if there is concerns about the blind side, since it's a right tackle and untraditional. But yeah, I think it's looking up for Miami after what started as a controversy with firing Flores, the offense, which was kind of stagnant last year, even though they had Waddle break the catches record. If anybody watched that, it was not fun. There's a lot of quick passes and shovel passes and all that stuff. And they're also not only going to have an improved offense, the defense that they're deploying seems like it's going to be pretty good. They did lose Deshaun Hall, Justin Coleman, Jason McCourty, and Jarvis Davis. I think McCourty is still a free agent, or he may have actually, yeah. So they can bring him back. I mean, at this point, McCourty is nothing more than a depth player in leadership. They did re-sign John Jenkins, Benito Jones, the big one, Emmanuel Ogba, who had a pretty good year last year and seems to be doing well in Miami. Brendan Scarlett, Elandon Roberts, everyone's favorite linebacker fullback hybrid. Duke Riley, Sam Eguvone, Nick Needham, and Sheldrick Redwine. And then they also added in free agency Porter Gustin, Melvin Ingram, and Keon Crossan. Not a lot of, major names, but there are some key positions. Like I said, Ogba, Duke Riley's a fine backup linebacker. Roberts flirts between being a starter and not. And then Melvin Ingram is going to provide some extra juice. I assume he's going to be a sub-package rusher. I don't see him playing every down. Do you want to talk about the defense?
Yeah, so Zach talks about the free agent additions. I think for me, and it might be a little bit biased, but I think their biggest get of the offseason defensively was drafting Channing Tindall in the third. When I watched the three Georgia backers, I thought that Tindall had the most upside of them. And if you watch his progression throughout the year, he played maybe 20 snaps in the Clemson game. And by the championship game, they were running 3 linebacker packages. They were finding ways to make sure he was on the field because he's a solid tackler, good in coverage, good against the run, plays inside, outside. I mean, he has some developing to do as, when you're a role player in college, you don't get the experience that someone like Nakobe Dean gets, but it's a great get. And like Zach said, considering Elandon Roberts very much flirts on the line of starter and not, I think Tindall will come in and start day one next to Jerome Baker. And I think that's a nice 1-2 at the linebacker spot in terms of age too. Those guys could be playing next to each other for the next 5 to 7 years.
I was going to say, on top of that, their 2 other linebackers are young too, with Jalen Phillips, if you classify him as a linebacker, and Van Ginkel. So they, as a whole core, it's a young group.
Yeah. And ESPN has Ogba listed as an outside linebacker. I think he's going to play D end because Zach Seisler is slotted in at one of their D ends, and I don't see that ending well. But, I mean, you're looking at a base defense of Ogba, Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, Van Ginkel, Tindall, Baker, Jalen Phillips, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland, Byron Jones, and it's slotted as Eric Rowe. But I don't know how this man continues to hold a job in this league. I think another one of their solid pickups was Ron McKinley, who was an undrafted free agent safety from Oregon. So reunite him in Holland. I think that could be a nice back end. McKinley might not start right away, but I did think that he flashed some nice skills when I watched his tape. But, I mean, either way, look at the corner room. It's Howard, Jones, Noah, however you say his last name, Nick Needham, Keon Crossan, Quincy Wilson. I don't think there's a deeper group. Well, maybe Baltimore, but outside of them, I don't know that there's a deeper group at the corner spot than this group here. But looking at the depth, it may become an issue, but I don't remember them having any serious issues injury-wise last year. So if everyone stays healthy again, this could end up being one of the better defensive units in football.
Yeah, I think they have some pretty good starters. Like you said, the depth is, I think it's more just young guys. I mean, Raekwon Davis, does he take another step forward? I know he's a starter, but and Christian Wilkins for that matter, they could become some of the better tackle duos in the league. Jalen Phillips had a weird 6-sack game last year or something crazy like that, and otherwise he was kind of absent. I could be wrong about that, but I thought he had one wild game. And you've got the veterans in the secondary with Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. And I assume they're the guys you're going to count on to lead until Tindall, unless Tindall comes in and just takes over the leadership role. And it's young. The whole team is young for the most part. I mean, on offense and defense, it's not an aging team. It's one that's been built a certain way, and they're going to ride or die with Tua. But the thing I like is if Tua doesn't work this year, if they decide it's not it, they can go out and get a veteran. This team is set up to just bring in a veteran guy and not have to redraft a quarterback and start all over again. And, we can't predict who's going to be available, but it's a team that, a lot is riding on Tua. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, I don't think it's certain other teams where it's backbreaking. With that in mind, we have them going 10-7 and finishing second in the division. We had them as a fringe playoff team. We were talking about it. We're not, we don't remember exactly which teams got into the wild card. I don't think Miami was one of them because the AFC is so loaded. It's going to be difficult to get those 3 wild card spots because it is 3 now, right?
Yes.
But Miami's going to be, if they're not in it, they're going to be right there as one of the teams that just barely misses it. As with most of the AFC teams, specifically in the East, besides the Bills, if the rookie or the second year or the third year quarterbacks take a bigger step than we think, Mac Jones, we haven't covered the Patriots yet, but Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, and now Tua, if they take a bigger jump than we think, if Tua just absolutely thrives in this new offense, it could be more, one more win and gets them into the playoffs. It could be 2 more wins because they do have, to Jack's note, a very good defense, and their offense is going to have a lot of athleticism. And it's certainly easy to, between Gesicki, the 2 starting receivers, Cedric Wilson, and if you want to count Mostert, I don't think there's a team in the NFL that's faster at the skill position players. So it's easy to see where this 10-7 record, which is very good, is underselling it just a hair. But at this moment, I'm not a huge Tua believer. I think he can fit within the offense, but I don't know that he has it in him to take that next jump and lead the team to the playoffs. But maybe, McDaniel is that good that he outsmarts some of the other coaches and gets wins in another way, and they do end up in the playoffs. But yeah, 10-7 for now. And our offensive grade is from current controversy to promise. Obviously, now can Tua make the jump? Again, I don't think I guess it's, in your eyes, what is the jump for you?
I think you watched the Saints game from last year, and I think this was a TikTok I was watching. There's a route concept. I can't remember what it was, but they had a deep post, and Waddle was coming underneath, and under pressure, Tua throws the post into quadruple coverage, gets picks it. And this is where the Tua can't do it. It just, and I get the offensive line wasn't great last year. You do make some upgrades there, but Tua needs to read the field a little bit better. And I get that at Alabama, that's not a huge deal when reports come out that Judy and Ruggs and whoever else was in that receiving core are playing rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the touchdown that drive. But I think that you watch the Miami offense last year, and it seems like they were really just being way too safe with Tua. They weren't letting him open up much at all. And when he was, you could tell it was forced, at the play I was just talking about. And I love McDaniel. I think that he's going to be a really good head coach. And I mean, the way I look at it is if he can make Jimmy G a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, I don't see why he can't do the same with Tua, especially with the weapons that he has. Just because you have speed on the outside does not mean you have to throw a post route every play.
No, not at all. I think it's going to be actually the opposite. I think it's going to be a lot of underneath routes and just hoping that Waddle and Hill can just take it and go.
But even past that, if you do want to run them deep, it leaves the middle wide open for guys like Gesicki and Gaskin underneath and the checkdowns and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our Miami Dolphins episode. We will be back tomorrow with the New England Patriots. So keep an eye out for that, and we look to see you there.